So, have you ever stumbled upon something just so perfectly niche it really grabs your attention?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those little corners of the world dedicated to specific passions.
Exactly. Picture this. You're scanning, maybe like the radio dial, and you land on this station. It's completely dedicated to car enthusiasts.
Okay, interesting. Like talk radio about cars.
Well, not just talk. It's more a whole world connecting the rumble of classic cars with the music, the soundtrack of their time.
Ah, I see. That's a much more specific vibe.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. We're taking a deep dive today into Radio City. It actually calls itself the Station of the Cars.
The station of the cars. I like that. It's very direct. What's fascinating right off the bat is that blend, cars and music history.
Totally. It's not just about the vehicles, and it's not only the music, it's how they intersect, especially through this nostalgic lens.
It really makes you wonder what sparked that kind of idea.
Exactly, and we've got some good info on that. Our sources, they detail the journey of Radio City, like over 30 years, straight from the operator.
Oh, fantastic. First-hand perspective.
Yeah. And we also have some background on the platform it uses now, which is called International Public Access Radio, or IPAR.
IPA. Okay, got it.
So our mission today basically is to understand, the origins, what kind of sounds it puts out, its connection to classic cars, and crucially, where you can actually tune in now.
All right, sounds like a plan. So let's start at the beginning. The inspiration for a station of the cars, where did that come from?
Well, the operator's story is really something. It takes us back to those really exciting, almost rebellious days of offshore pirate radio in Europe.
Well, the pirates. Radio Caroline, Radio London, that whole scene.
Precisely. Think about those ships, broadcasting from international waters, playing all the music the mainstream stations wouldn't touch.
A huge influence on music and radio culture back then.
Totally. That free spirit, the nonstop music format, that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then you layer on the other key passion, classic cars.
Right, the chrome, the fins, the whole aesthetic.
Yeah. Apparently, the operator saw this real harmony between the iconic music of, say, the 60s and the iconic cars from that same era.
That connection makes a lot of sense, actually. Both tap into that powerful nostalgia, a sort of romanticized look at the past.
And it sounds like the operator wasn't just listening in, right? They were actually doing pirate radio.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This wasn't just fandom. This person was actively involved in transmissions, shortwave, medium wave.
Even FM.
Even FM. So they were learning by doing all the essential skills, live broadcasting.
Editing audio, picking out the right tracks.
Making the presentation flow. It was like a real hands-on apprenticeship.
That background probably explains the very curated feel of the station today. It's not just random songs.
Definitely. It feels like someone with real experience is behind the wheel, so to speak.
Okay, so let's jump forward a bit. 1991, that's when the Radio City brand is officially born.
Got the name.
Right. But apparently there were other stations with similar names, so to make it clear, they added that slogan, the Station of the Cars.
Smart move. Defines the niche immediately.
Initially, they even had their own transmitter.
Yeah.
But that ran into some problems.
Ah, the challenges of independent broadcasting.
So they entered this really interesting phase, basically renting airtime on other pirate stations.
Wow, like freelancers of the airwaves.
Kind of. All across Europe, North America, even down in Uruguay.
Uruguay. And New Zealand, too, I think you mentioned?
Yeah, and New Zealand. Imagine coordinating that.
That nomadic period is pretty wild. The logistics must have been something else. Different stations, different rules, maybe?
Exactly. And the early programming. Pretty much what you'd expect. They played old car commercials they'd saved from the offshore stations.
Oh, cool. Little bits of audio history.
Yeah. And, of course, lots of car-themed songs.
Yeah.
The Beach Boys, fun, 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 that kind of classic vibe.
Pure audio nostalgia with a definite four-wheeled focus. So how did it evolve from that sort of underground multi-station phase?
Well, moving into the 21st century, things got a bit more established. They started buying time on a bigger station, a 100-kilowatt one in Latvia.
More power, wider reach, presumably.
Right. And later, they even got some free airtime on a medium wave station there that they had some connection with. But the really big shift came in 1996.
What happened then?
They found a new home on IRRS.
Ah, IRRS.
Yeah.
Known for shortwave broadcasting. Shortwave is interesting, isn't it? Bouncing signals off the atmosphere.
Exactly. It's like skipping a stone across the ionosphere to reach far away.
Yeah.
But that pond, the atmosphere, it's not always calm.
Right. It can be unpredictable. Sunspots, weather, lots of things affect it.
Totally. So for years, you could hear Radio City on shortwave. 910, 510 kilohertz on Saturday mornings was the main one. Sometimes 700, 290 kilohertz in the evenings.
And it reached pretty far, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Reports came in from all over Europe, parts of North America, and for a long time it was heard really well down in New Zealand and Australia, too.
That's the magic of shortwave, hitting different continents. But you mentioned the unpredictability.
That became the problem. The operator notes that recently, well, in recent years, increased solar activity has made radio propagation really tricky.
So the signal wouldn't reliably reach the same places.
Exactly. Reception areas would change day to day. Even things like the northern lights could mess with signals further south than usual. It just made consistent shortwave broadcasting a real headache.
Okay, so if shortwave became unreliable, especially for the core European audience, they needed a different solution.
Precisely. And that led to the decision to switch platforms. They moved to IRS medium wave.
Medium wave, like AM radio.
Right. Specifically 1,323 kilohertz. And the schedule changed too. It's now the third Saturday of each month in the late evening.
And medium wave behaves differently, correct? More of a ground wave signal, especially at night.
Yeah, that's the idea. It tends to provide a more stable signal over a region, rather than bouncing signals globally. Think of it like a more reliable local ripple compared to the long-distance skip of shortwave.
So more consistent for Europe.
That's the goal. With 10 kilowatts on 1,323 kilohertz late in the evening, they're aiming to cover a good chunk of Europe, from, say, Ukraine across to the UK and Ireland.
Makes sense. And are there technical tips for listening now?
Yeah, the operator mentioned something interesting. A lot of radio enthusiasts now use these things called SDRs, software-defined radios.
Ah, yes. Very flexible, computer-controlled receivers.
Right. And with those, you can apparently get a clearer signal sometimes by choosing USB mode upper sideband instead of standard AM. Helps cut interference.
And you can adjust the bandwidth too, right? Filter out noise.
Exactly. Like focusing a lens to sharpen the image, but for audio. Helps fight fading and distortion.
But what about people with just a regular radio?
Good news there, too. You don't need fancy gear. A normal portable radio with AM or medium wave, the kind with the built-in ferrite rod antenna, that still works fine.
Just might need to turn it a bit to get the best signal.
Yeah, just rotate the radio to find the sweet spot. So it caters to both the hardcore hobbyists and casual listeners.
That's a really thoughtful approach. Okay, so we know how to listen. What about what we're listening to? The programming.
Like the content. Each show has this really set structure. It always starts with a segment called Featured Act.
Okay, focused on one artist.
Yeah. They play 3 tracks by the same artist. And here's a cool international touch. If that artist recorded songs in different languages, they try to include those too.
Oh, neat. Emphasizes that global connection through music again.
Totally. Then comes the Dateline feature. This one's clever.
How does that work?
They pick the month the show airs, say May. They'll talk about interesting events that happened in May in past years.
Could be anything. Historical, cultural.
Seems like it. And then they follow up with songs by artists who were big around the time of those events.
Connecting music to specific moments in time.
Exactly. And here's a nod to the roots. They always include one track from the charts of the old offshore station Radio London Big L from between 1965 and 1967.
Wow, a direct link back to the pirate radio inspiration. Very cool.
Isn't it? Beyond those fixed segments, the rest is this really diverse music mix. The main focus is definitely the 1960s.
The golden era for both the music and many classic cars.
Right. But they mix in older stuff too, and newer tracks sometimes. And what's interesting is they often avoid the really massive overplayed hits.
So you're more likely to hear something unexpected. A forgotten gem.
That's the idea. It makes for a more unique listen, less predictable than mainstream oldies radio.
I like that. Keeps it interesting.
And the selection is broad geographically, too. You get European hits, North American stuff, but also Latin American music, Asian tracks.
Even African music sometimes, like Congolese rumba.
Yeah, they mentioned that specifically. It's a real sonic journey. And because they want to maintain that curated surprise, they actually don't take song requests.
Makes sense. It's the operator guiding you through their musical world connected to cars. It's their specific vision.
Exactly. Now, if you, the listener, want to connect with the station, you can. The operator welcomes emails.
Good to know.
And here's a really lovely old school touch. QSL letters.
Ah, the verification cards. A classic ham radio and shortwave tradition.
Right. They send out these physical postcards to listeners who send in proof that they actually heard the broadcast over the air.
Proof of reception. It's like getting a postcard from the station itself.
And the Radio City QSLs sound pretty special. They include history about the station, the schedule, confirmation of your report.
Details about the music you heard.
Yep, music and artist info. And here's the car connection again. Each month, the QSL features a different vintage car.
No way. That perfectly ties the whole theme together.
Often it's even a photo taken by the operator themselves.
That's fantastic. A real personal touch.
And it comes from a genuine place. The operator isn't just playing car songs, they're a proper enthusiast. For 11 years, they own this beautiful 1966 Chrysler New Yorker.
Oh, wow. A big classic American cruiser imported.
All the way from California. Then after a move, they got a 1973 MG Midget.
Ah, a little British sports car. Quite a change.
Yeah. So this station, it's clearly not just a job, it's a real passion project. A labor of love.
That definitely comes through in the description. It gives the station its unique character, I bet.
So if you want one of these QSL cards, how do you prove reception?
You need to send in a verified report. That means giving specific details, at least 3 pieces of music info. Song title, artist, and the time you heard it.
Or you could send an audio clip.
Yes, an MP3 file capturing a station announcement or jingle plus some of the music also works.
But critically, it has to be from listening over the air.
Absolutely. Reports based on just hearing an internet stream somewhere else, if one exists, they don't count for a QSL. It's about the traditional radio reception.
Right, preserving that aspect of the hobby. Okay, so let's just quickly touch on the platform again. How does it get on air now?
It uses the facilities of NEXUS-International Broadcasting Association.
Under their IPA program.
Right. IPR stands for International Public Access Radio.
So what exactly is IPR?
It's basically a service provided by NEXUS-IBA. They offer airtime as a public access platform. People or groups can buy time to broadcast their own programs.
On shortwave and medium wave.
Yeah, on their transmitters and also via internet streaming. So Radio City, as an independent producer,
uses IPR's medium wave transmitter to get its show out to Europe.
Exactly. NEXUS-IBA provides the infrastructure through IPA. They mention being committed to free speech and providing a platform, reaching people across the digital divide, that kind of thing. But for our purposes today, the key is they're the ones enabling Radio City's current medium wave broadcasts.
Got it. So let's pull it all together then. Radio City, the station of the cars.
Born from that cool mix of offshore pirate radio nostalgia and a love for classic cars.
Delivering this really unique blend of mainly 1960s music, car culture connections, themed segments.
All curated with a very personal touch from the operator behind it all.
After years on shortwave, you now find it on medium wave 1323 kilohertz in Europe.
Third Saturday evening of the month.
And it gets there thanks to the International Public Access Radio Service, IPA, from NEXUS-IBA.
It really is a great example of niche broadcasting finding its place and dedicated enthusiasts keeping these unique sounds alive.
It really is. And here's something to think about. In this world we live in now, with, endless streaming choices, algorithms feeding us everything.
Right. So much content, it can feel overwhelming or generic sometimes.
Exactly. And yet, here's this small radio station focused on this very specific intersection, classic cars, and a certain era of music not only surviving, but having this loyal following, sending in reception reports for QSL cards.
It shows there's still a desire for that curated human touch, that connection to a specific passion.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Okay.
What other unique passions, what other niche interests out there might have their own dedicated outlets, maybe small radio stations or zines or tiny online forums?
Hidden gems broadcasting to these small, really diverted communities.
Yeah. What other cool specific worlds are out there just waiting for you to tune in or discover them? That's your audio thought to maybe motor on today.